I'd like to do as part of roundup using this mind map I made through a number of the things we've been discussing. I've been taking things from the different presentations and tried to order them. We've basically been discussing social inclusion, and sort of the main points which I take with me is that we've been saying, well, we want to focus on inclusion and not exclusion. In that same line of thought, we said, well, we are not going to just look at social inclusion of vulnerable adults. And so I think in general we've been saying that for this group of people, social inclusion is a general value. We've been saying that it's a multidimensional process, and we've been discussing activation, internalization, participation, and connection. We've also indicated that it includes formal and informal elements. What also came across for me is that there are a number of temporal and structural tensions. If social inclusion is an essential element in adult education, then we need to research it, we need to validate it, etc. That's from the research perspective. And actually when we were drafting the priorities, that claim came out very clearly that that's what we want to do, the research first, and then we will end up implementing something down the line. Whereas just to skip, when you sort of look at it from the adult education field, to say, well, give us something now. And from the policy point of view, there were some interesting remarks. Well, we said perhaps we should try to accomplish that social inclusion becomes one of the priorities of adult education. And there was also the remark that in the end, investigating in adult education and social inclusion also makes sense from a policy point of view. It will save money. It will save a society money. Now to go back to the adult education field, because we should not leave that out. I mean, there were a number of things. We wanted to include formal, non-formal and informal learning. It became, again, clear that we need to look at a mixture for that. Just a personal remark, as human beings, we've sort of evolved for informal learning. We've not evolved for formal learning. Our whole mechanism is an informal learning mechanism that we sort of abuse when we put people in a classroom. And as adult education providers, we need to learn how to put informal learning to use, how to include that as part of what we do, and not see it as something really marginal to them. There was very strongly also attention paid to the needs of the labor market. Two concepts: employability, definitely, but also job stability. How stable are jobs? In terms of, if you lose your job, then of course you end up in the margins of society. There was a demand for tools to evaluate and improve the effect of adult education on social inclusion. And also a plea almost, please give us tools that can help us predict how we can best use the limited resources that we have available. And a general feeling for me that the field is very solution-oriented. Yes, we will need this to come up with good solutions, but it's very solution-oriented. From EDAM project, we got some first insights in the predictors. And the next question then is, the more we know about this system, can we tweak it? Can we start playing around with it so that the outcomes are more in line with what we are looking for? Now, that requires a good understanding of what that system is about, what type of system it is. And I think that we've been saying that it's a complex system. And I've just sort of used a few of the words that go with complex system, and I've tried to map them onto discussions we've had. We said it's complex because it's multi-level. It goes from an individual to a society, to the whole of society, a global society at this point. And then we might start looking for self-similarity among the different levels. When we look at complex systems, we also need to look at boundaries. And there are boundaries of individuals, boundaries of social groups, boundaries of cultural groups, boundaries of countries. And I think when we look at social inclusion and try to understand social inclusion as a complex system, we need to pay attention to what happens at those boundaries and we need to look at permeability and concepts like that. We might also look at bifurcations in the complex system. And actually part of the discussion about are we going to look at social inclusion or social exclusion is we might look at that as a bifurcation problem. Where along the trajectory of an individual might it bifurcate towards social inclusion or towards social exclusion? Are there perhaps attractors in the system? There are definitely, and that came up a few times, there are definitely feedback loops. Positive feedback loops, negative feedback loops. There probably is sensitivity to initial conditions, and one of the things that was mentioned a few times was early childhood as an initial condition that to a large extent determines how the system, not totally determines, but to a large extent determines how a trajectory will develop. There's also, in a larger perspective of that same thing, the whole nature-nurture debate that we did not have on the table, but that might be useful to bring to this research platform. And then the whole essential element of predictability. Can we develop tools that allow us to predict the behavior of the system in terms of the different levels of complexity, different levels of organization. Can we do it for a culture? Can we do it for an individual? If we understand what's going on here, then we need to be a little bit realistic and also look at opportunities or restrictions created by EU policy. And the ones that came that were sort of listed today in Ella's presentation were widening participation in education and training. And for us, the question then is that indeed a tool that we can use to increase the effect of adult education on social inclusion? Lifelong learning programs. Which ones do we have? Do we need more? Do we need other types of lifelong learning projects? The key competences that have been identified. It would be nice, just a thought, to map the key competences that have been identified by the European Commission to the predictors that we have been, that we are in the process of identifying as indicators for social inclusion. And I have a general feeling that the two are not too far off, but perhaps there's research that can be done to point the Commission at sort of a better defined cluster of key competences. And an important one, and it's one that's close to my heart, is fostering entrepreneurial mindsets. The idea, and I think it needs to be expanded into intrapreneurial mindset, but the idea that you train people, that you learn people, that you develop competencies that have to do with organizing themselves, taking responsibility, and getting things